It is not wrong to seek validation, especially from people. After all, they are the ones you see, probably work with or for. And yes, it's still people that get to see the things you do. So, understandably, you would want to know what they think about your choices, your decisions, ideas, and achievements, whether they will recognize, approve, disapprove, or accept them. But does people's validation matter? Is it something to rely on in your journey to become the best version of yourself or creating the life you deserve? Let's dive in and see. Hello, you're listening to Thrive and Soar podcast. I'm your host, Theodora Nadi. I'm an entrepreneur, a researcher, and of course, a digital content creator. My mission is to help goal and growth-oriented persons like you break your barriers so that we can thrive and soar together. Life is about growing and changing, and you get to see your life evolve positively. If yes, then this is the right space for you. This is the space for you to improve your life and transform your personality. Join me on this journey of becoming the best version of ourselves, and I will support and empower you every step of it so that we can win together. Let's move. When it comes to making certain life decisions or choices, you may be wondering if you're doing it right or wrong, and may see yourself asking questions like, will I be able to get through it? Am I capable enough to do this? Am I good at this? Did I make the right choice? Or do you think it's all right to do this or that? When you ask all those questions and can't give yourself an answer, you may feel the need to go out there and ask people to provide the answers on your behalf. Doubt and disbelief are already on your table when you start asking those questions. And when you fail to give yourself the answer, a lack of self-validation is on the table. When you feel people's answers to those questions matter as much as your answer, or their answers could replace yours, and you're willing to get the answers from them, you're now seeking people's validation. And you often say that a lack of self-validation leads to the quest for people's validation. Because if you could provide the answers and be confident in them, you wouldn't have any reason to look elsewhere for answers. The quest for people's validation starts with seeking their opinion. And don't get me wrong, seeking for opinion is not a wrong move. And when you seek opinion, you get feedback, which may be some commendation or criticism, approval or disapproval, or probably an encouragement or discouragement, right? These are things you may need. Yes, I think you need this feedback in certain aspects of your life as it may contribute to your learning and unlearning processes. But the real issue is when you prioritize people's opinion about yourself over your own opinion, when you are not able to self-validate yourself and rely on people's validation to help your life. It doesn't seem right to think you need people's validation to take a step. Relying on people's opinion may prevent you from pulling through. Sometimes, our efforts and success can be derailed because we're busy looking for what isn't necessary, something like people's validation. I often suggest not to shoot yourself in the leg by thinking that because you deal with people, people's validation matters more than yours. I think you should be more concerned about whether you validate yourself in line with God's validation of you rather than focusing on people's validation. In my last episode about our role in creating the life we deserve, I specified that we only have two key players, and that is God and you. So I'm telling you today that people's validation of your life doesn't matter as much as God's validation of you or your validation of yourself. Your validation in line with God's validation is what you need to put in that effort that helps you create and live that life you deserve. So please take it anywhere. People's validation is not a necessity and may not help you create and live the life you deserve. You just have to search yourself and think, well, you will find the answers to those questions because nobody on this planet knows you more than you know yourself. You can't rely on people's answers to your question or validation because their opinion is subjective. People's opinion of you differs across individuals, and each one will validate you based on what they feel. It could be based on their mindsets or perspective. perspective differs, and there is a high chance of having different experiences with different people. So you just do not expect the same result from them. So, for example, you've met Mr. A, and some of your experiences with him are mainly work or business related. Although you may have shared other experiences, it was majorly business related. Then there is Mrs. R, and the experiences with her are majorly related to healthy lifestyle habits that you need to adopt to improve your life. Then we have Miss E, and the experiences you share are related to what's the next best restaurant, what's the biggest boutique in town to visit, or probably the latest trend on social media. So all these are various examples of the experiences you may have shared with people in your circle, from business related experience to health related experience to fashion or fun filled experiences. Even if you at some point shared your entire life experiences with them, there is certainly one major part you share more with each of them, because it's possible that Miss E is more focused on the fashion part of the whole gist and might not really be interested in the business part of your life. So at every point there is just that one particular experience you will have to share more with each of them, and that is what will dominate their opinion about you. And whatever they think about you, they will always factor in what they know about you. Like, the level of knowledge they have about you is what they will always consider in giving their opinion, regardless of what the situation is. And what they know about you is barely 1 out of 10 of who you are. So my question is, how do you expect someone who knows just 1 out of 10 of who you are to validate you and your ability to do something? If there is one person who knows you 10 over 10 is God, then the next person is you. Let me use myself as an example. Of course, God created me and He knows me more than anybody. So God knows me more than anybody on this planet, 10 over 10. And then I know myself. But I do not know everything about myself yet. Yes, I've said this because there are things and abilities I often see in me when opportunities arise that I would never have imagined being capable of. So I'm not close to 10 over 10, maybe 7 or more or less, but not 10 over 10. And now there are people who do not even know about 5 over 10 of who I am. People who what they know is what I have shown them or what they have made out of what they see in me. I know over half of who I am or think I am. And sometimes I find it hard to approve or accept that I can do certain things. How much more does someone who knows only about 1 over 10 of who I am? You see why we shouldn't even think of giving that power of validation to anybody except ourselves. Okay. I remember some time ago, not quite long, maybe 2 months ago or so. It was on a Sunday and I had just woken up. It's just randomly occurred to me to send a message to my friends on my contact list, asking them to describe my personality from their various experiences with me. I wasn't in a haste, so I told them that I wasn't in a haste and they can take their time to reminisce on the experiences we shared. It was just a random thought and I acted on it. How would I have known it? I would use it to prove a point months later. You can imagine. Well, back to my gist. You know what happened? Some replied and some people didn't reply. For the people that didn't reply, I assume that either they have a lot to say that they can't put in writing, or maybe they don't know me too well to say anything about my personality or wish not to reply. Some replied and there were similarities and differences in their responses. Some responses were based on just one encounter out of the many experiences I shared with some of them. The differences in their replies could be due to the difference in perspective and the fact that I may not have shared the same experiences with them. Like I don't share the same experience, or it's possible that I don't share the same experience with Mr. A, Mrs. R, and Miss E. So I remember one person said, And one of the responses, not just like this, someone said, I'm empathetic. And then another person said, I am understanding but not sympathetic. Imagine different descriptions for one person. And these descriptions were given based on different experiences. They have written based on what they know and have seen, which may be true. But who knows the real truth? Who would give an accurate validation on life decision that has to do with how compassionate I am? The same thing may apply to others because humans have a lot in common. So you shouldn't wait for people's validation to take a very important life decision. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that seeking opinion or listening to what people say about you is wrong. I'm not saying that again. So take advice, ponder on it, make corrections, ponder on people's opinion about you, but do not let them define you, especially if it is a wrong opinion or a negative one at that. The experiences you shared with them may say a lot about your personality, but they don't entirely define you because several factors may have influenced the outcome of those experiences. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So it is best not to allow people's validation about your choices or decision to be a yardstick with which you measure your success potential. You measure your potential based on your validation, not on people's validation. Their validation of your choice may be subjective or based on a certain point of reference. So, in self-validation, everything is about you. It's entirely about you, about your experiences, your perspective, your mindset, your skills, your knowledge, and your passion. But when it comes to people's validation, it's a two-way thing. Their validation may be influenced by their experiences, their own preference, perspectives, and mindset, or it will be given based on your skills, your knowledge, or your zeal. So you can imagine seeking validation from someone who feels a certain way about the same thing you want to know what their opinion is about, right? The person may not fancy or have the passion for what you seek validation for. At the end of the day, being approved for that same thing by this person may be hard. For example, you've always wanted to start a business. You've thought about it for the longest time, right? You feel you can do this. The zeal is there. Example, let's use makeup. You love makeup. You're creative enough to venture into the cosmetic business, and you have the entrepreneurial skills and interpersonal skills to get this done. Looking at this, you've validated yourself based on what you know about yourself and you feel you can do. Then just before you make the final decision, you decided to ask one or two persons what they think about you venturing into this business. So you've gone to Miss E, with whom you've shared only fun-filled activities, and probably Miss E doesn't like makeup and is okay living her 9-to-5 job life. She may not fancy entrepreneurship and never really had to think deep into what it entails. So imagine seeking validation from people like Miss E or seeking validation from Miss E when you're about to take such an important life decision. It's possible Miss E will tell you that she's not sure you can thrive as a business owner. Why don't you look for a job and forget about taking business risks? Words like this can come from Miss E. Even if it is business, okay, why makeup when you can start a restaurant business? I don't even understand. So Miss E has given her opinion about your question based on her outlook on life and the experiences you shared with her. This may all be true, but have you forgotten that you know deep down within you that you can do this? You know you have the potential and God has placed it in your heart because He knows you can do it. You see why you shouldn't rely on people's validation, especially when you're so convinced about yourself. So, bringing Mr. A into this example, Mr. A, you've shared business ideas or business experiences with Mr. A. So he has seen your potentials as a business owner and he has different opinion from Miss E's. Mr. A may not tell you to consider a 5 to 9 job. Even if he happens to suggest other things, he would acknowledge your progress first. Further tell you why you need to consider other options and may ask more questions that will help your idea. Mr. A has also given his opinion based on his outlook on life and the experience he shared with you, which his opinion luckily favors you. This may all be true, and remember, you know what you can do. So Miss A's validation of your choices will likely be based on subjective factors, and Mr. A's will be based on your capabilities. This is why you can't rely on their validation but yours, because differences will always exist. Let me remind you that in creating the life you deserve, other than God, you have the power. Be sure not to give it out to things that matter less. The journey is yours and you are the one wearing the shoe. Your life is yours, and if you win in life, it is to your advantage. Regardless of who asks the question, your answers to those questions are key. So be sure to answer them rightly. Let answers from others be appreciated and weighed, but do not bank on them as a yardstick to measure your potential, because nobody knows you more than you. People's validation doesn't really matter. Thank you for listening to this episode of Thrive and Soar podcast. I want you to remember that we've hoped, we've coped, and we do not just want to survive. We want to reach for the stars. We want to thrive and soar because it is our birthright. We've got this, and God got us. Whether we've become the best version of ourselves or we're still working towards being the best version of ourselves, what matters is that best is the common word here, and we have that word in mind. So join me in a toast to the best version of us. I hope that I've been able to impact your life through this episode. Please be sure to subscribe so that I'll be motivated to join you again. And if you appreciate the show, please give us some stars. Thank you.